Hello, welcome to 30 Minutes. I'm Rick Anthony. All across the country, resistance is growing to the systematic indoctrination of children and young adults by forces intent on canceling the Constitution and guaranteeing equal outcomes rather than equal opportunity to pursue the American dream. In communities and in state capitals, there are emerging counter-movements to the imposition of insidious critical race theory and its message of hate and discrimination based on skin color. Some states have already banned critical race theory in their schools, and concerned parents are calling out school officials for turning the curriculum over to leftist propagandists. About 7 months ago, I interviewed one of those parents who at the time was in the vanguard of the national opposition movement. Dr. Elana Fishbein is founder and president of No Left Turn in Education, a grassroots movement of parents, families, and citizens who believe that K through 12 education should be free from indoctrination and politics. Elana, it's been 7 months. You've created quite a stir in those 7 months. You've been on national television. You've been interviewed by a number of publications. I'd like to know what's happened since then, but I'd also like to know, let's start from the beginning, why you took your kids out of a local public school. That's what started it, right?
Indeed, but I'd like to correct you. I'm still creating a stir. It hasn't stopped. I just intensified and increased and expanded all over the country because we are a national grassroots movement.
Wonderful.
Yes. Yes, indeed. Over the years, I've noticed how leftist agenda has been creeping into the children curriculum and lesson plan and material. It was not so bad that we felt that as parents we cannot control it and be able to still instill in our kids the values that we believe in. However, after the killing of George Floyd, the schools in our school district, Lower Merion School District, and apparently around the country, started implementing extensive curriculum that included radical indoctrination, radical material that is espoused to a certain political view, which in fact actually is a Marxist indoctrination. Eventually, that's what, when I looked at the documents, at the material, at the lesson plan, at the book that they assigned to my kids, we felt very strongly this is not something that we can go along with. So we pulled our kids out of school, but that's not where I stopped. I had to really question the validity and the purpose of this kind of teaching. So I wrote a letter to the superintendent, to the school board members, as well as to the principal. I'm yet to receive an answer.
How did your children feel at the time? What was their reaction to what was going on in the classroom?
They did not really get to see it. The school implemented it 2 days before the end of the school year, and we opted the kids out of the class. However, as parents, we explained to them why we are opting them out of the classes and why they're not going to participate the next day in the Zoom calls, which were focused on these topics.
Who came up with the name, No Left Turn in Education? I love it.
My creative husband.
Oh.
He was on his way to pick up medicine for his mother who lived with us, and he wanted to make a left turn, and there was a truck blocking. And he came home very happy that he was able to come up with the name, No Left Turn in Education. But I would like to emphasize, because some people get mixed up and they think that it's a political movement because of the word left.
Yes.
But indeed, we are not political movement at all. Our people that are approaching us understand, and they come from all walks of life, and they come from the left, from the right, from the conservative, libertarian. They understand that what has been happening in our school is a very sharp left, very radical. It's not what they used to call JFK kind of Democrat or liberal, and not mainstream. So therefore, many people understand that and approach us, although they identify themselves as Democrat or even as lefty, and feel that indeed what's happening is too radical and they veered way too much to the left.
You've told me that your days are full. You can barely keep up with the volume of calls and other tasks involved in managing a movement of this kind. Have you been surprised by the response?
Yes and no.
You sound like a consultant. Yes and no.
Yes, because obviously it became very apparent when I launched the movement, a lot of people are afraid. At the same time, because people were writing me private messages, they were able to express themselves freely. We know, there's no doubt in my mind, and the people who are involved with us, that the people who espouse the indoctrination comprise a tiny, tiny minority in this country. I do not believe that even make 10% of the population, not even 5%. The great majority, whom we refer to as the silent majority, are the people that are supporting the values that this country was established upon in the Constitution, in the Bill of Rights, which the other side is totally opposing and try to eradicate. Therefore, I'm not surprised, but I'm happy that people are waking up and are able to stand up and speak up to defend their children and defend our nation.
Well, there certainly has been an awakening. I think it's 20 state legislatures, or no, state attorneys general have taken action against the radical activism in the schools. Other governors, as you know better than I, have taken action. Parents groups, though, you don't hear very much about grassroots like your movement.
We're indeed, I believe, the most prominent, and because we are what I consider boots on the ground. It's not just a website, it's not just a Facebook page, it's not on social media, just telling another story. We are organizing on the ground group of parents. We have now chapters in over 22 states. People are organizing and starting to act. So there are other groups that are local. However, unfortunately, because the power that we are confronting are very entrenched, very well funded, like the teachers union, like people are supported through the generous funding of George Soros and alike, and the support they get from social media, the support with the cancel culture, the support they're getting from a big tech that funneled a lot of money to movements like Black Lives Matter. As well as, we shouldn't forget, the deepest pocket that those people have on the other side are our money, our taxpayers' money. So all their activities very well funded. They've been there for many years, and we have been in the sleep for all those years. So confronting them is not simple. And still experiencing the cancel culture, there are a lot of people that are very concerned. So our job is really cut out for us in terms of educating the people to the problem, because there's still, surprisingly, many parents who are not aware, and many other concerned citizens, now there are concerned citizens, are not aware what exactly happening and what are the consequences of this.
Elana, the response must be gratifying. On the other hand, there must be some risk as well. You must be experiencing some hostility as well as accolades for the work you're doing. Are you at risk? Do you feel you're at risk?
The only risk I feel is really from this indoctrination taking place and controlling the life of our children and eventually of our families and our communities and society. This is the true risk. We have to stand up. I'm questioning many times when people that are saying that they're afraid because they're called racist. I was called those names and bigot, and I've been canceled. But at what point people will feel, parents will feel, this is the time to stand up for my kids. This is the bullet that is coming now, directed at your kids and at your family. When are you going to stand up and protect your kids? When are you going to stand up and protect your country? And this is really the time. I don't think we can waste any more time. And people starting to understand that. The more they're exposed to what's taking place in the classroom and what the kids are being indoctrinated with, the more they feel empowered to stand together and to fight it.
You mentioned there are 20 chapters in, chapters in 20 states?
Over 22 states we have chapters.
What does that mean? What's involved in creating a chapter? What does a chapter do? Well, for example, on this area, would a chapter have gotten involved in the recent election for the school board?
We are 501c3 organization, so we do not support specific candidate, but we feel that our role is to educate parents about their responsibility in the education of their children. In fact, when the Department of Education was instituted in 1979, it said there specifically that the primary role of educating the children, the primary responsibility is of the parents,
Yes.
not of the state, not of the localities. The state, localities, and private organizations have the primary responsibility for supporting the parents. So our role is really to educate the parents, to explain to them how important it is for them to become involved in what's happening in the education of the children. School boards are having a major role in determining
Yes.
what goes into the classroom. So our role is really to teach them why school board are important, what kind of role school board are playing in the education of their children, and how important it is for them to become involved in what's happening in the school board, attend meeting, be aware who is going to be elected to the school board, and if they are indeed reflecting their values that they have and they would like to espouse on their kids.
Among the goals that you list on your website, goals and objectives, education is certainly mentioned frequently among the goals. But there's also another word, that's mobilize. What does that mean specifically, and how do you mobilize parents?
Mobilize starts with educating them. As I said, many do not understand what's
Right.
going on. At the same time, we're going to offer them alternative material and curriculum so they will understand that there is something better that kids can really be educated on and become the best human being, the best patriotic citizen, and be able to maximize on their own potential. To mobilize also means that we empower them by coming together. When you're alone facing a school board, or when you're alone facing the principal or the superintendent, they ignore you. They ignored me, and I'm hearing that across the country. All those bodies are ignoring parents. In fact, many school boards were caught on hot mic disparaging parents, ridiculing parents, and we are paying for all those people to educate our kids. So to mobilize is educate them, bringing together, and help them, giving them tools to act.
Has No Left Turn in Education been endorsed by any other established organizations?
Yes, we are collaborating, for example, with the Heritage Foundation. We're collaborating with 7076 Unite. We are collaborating with Freedom Works. We are collaborating with many organizations, national organizations, Broaden Liberty here locally, Pennsylvania Family Institute, also in our state. So there are many national and local organizations that we are collaborating with. In each state, our chapters are identifying individuals as well as groups and organizations that are like-minded, and we work together. As I said, we don't have the resources that the other side has, so we have really to augment our resources by working together and collaborating.
Tell me about the Clark lawsuit.
Gabrielle Clark is our chapter head in Nevada, and when she came to me back shortly after my appearance on Tucker Carlson and detailed to me what her son is going through, that was of a great concern. She also detailed that she turned to a lot of media outlets and others that have been writing about the subject but has been ignored. And at the same time, just shortly before, I had another lawyer from New York who approached me that was interested to help our movement. Eventually, when I was talking to Gabrielle Clark over a couple of weeks or so, I realized this is really a case that has to get into the court. I met her with lawyers, and they built up the case. In that case, in fact, is a unique case in a sense, but I'm saying unique because it's now in court. However, we have a lot of families like that who are experiencing the same thing across the country. She's a biracial mother. Her father was white, her mother was black, and she lived very happily in a biracial family with the Judeo-Christian values. She married, her first husband was black, and her first two children, as she described, if you look at them, they look black, they're three-quarter black. Then she married, her second husband was white, and the two children with that husband are blonde, green eyes, and what the society calls white skin. And she says, when you look at them, you think about them as white. And when they were at their school, charter school in Las Vegas, he was introduced, her son, senior year, was introduced to a class called Sociology of Change. In that class, the students were asked to deconstruct their identity and claim an identity based on their race, ethnicity, sexual orientation, sex at birth, religion, income of family. There are a whole array of characteristics which they ask the student to actually claim publicly. And incredible. And then they were assigned one of those categories. You're either oppressed or oppressor. You're privileged or a victim. And mind you, we're talking about biracial family.
Yes.
So is this supposedly white kid supposed to look at his supposedly black sibling as oppressors? They're supposed to look at him as an oppressed. You have to understand, she has 5 kids, all came from the same womb.
Yeah.
They came different pigmentation of skin, just the way they came out, just the way, naturally. So how are we gonna force this child to claim identity and to claim responsibility as an oppressor or as a privilege where he has a family that is mixed with all this?
Sure.
But the school demanded that he would participate. They would not allow him to opt out. Actually, that's all she asked, opt him out and give him an alternative class. But they would not let her do that. And they insisted that he's going to fail. And indeed, they failed him. And they threatened his graduation. And that's why actually it became a case, because there were consequences for him not participating. That's an important issue to understand. A lot of schools now, a lot of states are starting to require those kind of classes, meaning that parents cannot opt out. And that's where, hopefully, with all the legislative activities around the country pushing for banning critical theory from classes, that will help, because parents will have something to support them.
Are there different versions of critical race theory? The class that you just described, for example, was that critical race theory?
Indeed. This is a masterful deception of the other side. Most places, if not all, will not identify the classes as critical race theory, particularly after what has been happening in recent months when the public become aware and you hear in the media critical race theory over and over again. So their masterful deception is by using euphemisms. And I created a list of over 4 dozen words that they are using instead of critical race theory in order to camouflage what actually they're doing. So you hear more commonly DEI, diversity, inclusion, and equity. You hear words like anti-racism, white supremacy. So the whole area of, my kids in the classroom, they have cultural proficiency. That's how they called it. So all these are actually the same exact thing. So if you go to the authority and you say, why are you teaching my kid critical race theory? They will claim that they do not, because that's not the way they identify it. But you'll go to the list that I provide, and it's going to be on our website next week, and you'll find out that all those words that they're using in order to deceive the parents purposefully.
Has this theory, this new approach, the radical activism, been totally embraced by educators and by administrators in education? And if so, why?
So first I would like to emphasize this is critical race theory. It is a theory. It's not proven. It's not been tested. It was in the halls of academia debated. It should continue to be debated in the halls of academia. Many educators are not embracing it. Many teachers are not. We have hundreds of teachers who have been approaching us and expressing their concern about what's happening. In fact, teachers that are close to retirement, all the teachers that know what's good education is, are opting for early retirement because I don't want to deal with that. Younger teachers who have been indoctrinated on the campuses and colleges of universities and colleges in nowadays have been indoctrinated there. So many of them coming already indoctrinated. So for them, it's obvious that's what they learned, and that's
Yes.
what they are continuing to
Yes.
bring to the classes.
Do you have a program? One of your goals is to support teachers who resist the coercion. Do you have a specific program to support teachers?
We
Other than saying prayers and holding their hands and
we need more than that.
Yes.
We definitely need more than that. We, as I said, we are boots on the ground. We are action oriented. So first, we started establishing different committees. One of the first committees that I established is the Teachers Committee. We have 4 subcommittees. One of them, the first one, was teacher support. So we are sitting and figuring out ways to reach out to those teachers and what kind of support they need, and start building it and offering them. I can tell you one example. I have a teacher from New York who approached me. It's about 2-3 weeks ago, and I teamed her up with a lawyer. So some teachers will need legal support, and we are ready for that. We are working with different lawyers around the country. At this time, all working pro bono.
pro bono?
Yes. And so we teamed up this teacher with a lawyer. So I know there are going to be more and more cases of teachers who are going to come and ask for legal help, because the kind of training they're putting them through in order to,
Yes.
continue with this kind of indoctrination is against the Civil Rights Act.
I want to ask you a really stupid question. Stupid, I think, because I know how you're going to respond. Is it too late? I mean, this has been going on for a very long time, under the wire. Most people weren't aware of it. It starts on the campuses, the college campuses, and that produces a generation of young people who think the way we're talking about now. Is it too late to reverse this, to turn it around?
I'll tell you, you're right. They have been starting doing that for decades. And you're right, we've been asleep at the wheel. But you're not giving up on your family. You're not giving up on your home, on your country. There's no too late. We are going to fight until the last drop of blood. Don't forget, I'm Israeli. I know what we have to do in order to defend our homes, our families, our values, our right to live as a free nation. We have a right to live here as a free nation, not as a Marxist nation. So once people are aware of what's going on, they're rising. They're getting up. They understand the danger. America has most of its population patriotic Americans who love this country, who love their family, and they see that this is a bully that's coming at their children.
Yeah.
And they are getting up, and we are rising up. It's not too late. We are very forceful, we're very committed, we're resilient.
Is it more entrenched on both coasts rather than the middle of the country?
Everywhere.
I was going to say, you're hearing from people all over the country.
Not only that, everywhere.
Yeah.
I wish I brought it with me. I got a heart-wrenching message from a mother from Texas this morning. My husband read it too, and he said, we just want to cry, reading what happened to her 3 daughters. But we're hearing the stories from all over the country. Red state, blue state, red area, blue, it's everywhere. And in fact, many times we feel that some of those remote areas are very vulnerable because people there are living their peaceful life, not realizing, and here is like a foreign entity coming over and taking over their life, their way of life, and and literally hijacking the schools, and their kids are captive audience. We are going to continue fighting, and every day we have more and more people are joining us. One thing also very important to emphasize, when I launched the movement, my kids were in public school, so I was thinking about public school because it's taxpayers' money, and they cannot just go and do whatever they want with our taxpayer money. We should have some control. But in no time, I was getting flooded with messages from people who have kids in parochial schools, in private schools, in all kinds of schools. And we say, hey, this is America. Those are the kids of America. This is the same country that we all share and we love and we want to fight for. So we are actually dealing with all schools, families, kids that are coming from all schools, not only public schools.
But this insidious encroachment is in public schools. It's not so much in charter schools or
absolutely
parochial schools
it is.
Or private schools
Absolutely.
as well? I wasn't aware of that.
Notorious. We have here, for example, in our area, the Episcopal Academy. I've been hearing from parents that it started there in 2015. and it's very bad. It's very entrenched there. One of our board member is on the West Coast in Sacramento. He's a Jesuit educated and very Catholic, very involved. And what's going, according to him, and what we know also from information that we've been reading and getting from parents, it's insane what's going in all the Jesuit schools, but also in many other Catholic schools. I know from others that have kids in Christian schools. In fact, you really have to take tweezers in order to find schools of any kind that are not engaged in this kind of indoctrination.
That is frightening. It really
It is very frightening, absolutely.
Pervasive. And it's been done so quietly.
Nobody interfered with them.
No.
Nobody interfered. Now we are. Now we are claiming our responsibility and we are exercising it.
You have a board, you say?
We have a board, yeah. We created the board back in November when we applied for 501c3, and we've been a functioning board. We meet every couple of weeks and develop policy and develop direction.
How are you funded?
That's the sore point, because we get small donations, but now we became 501c3 a month ago. We've been approached by some foundation, but our operation has grown so wide, so extensive, and as I said, we are really the most prominent organization that with boots on the ground fighting it.
Yes.
And we need to start hiring staff, all our staff, all the work that we have done, that people are blown away when they understand the details and the extent of what we have done. All of them are volunteers. Everybody's volunteers. We really are desperate for infusion of funds.
Elana, because of the prominence that you now have, there must be forces who are trying to stamp you out. You must be hearing from people, either directly or indirectly, who are trying to stop you. Is that not the case?
We're not stoppable. I don't care what they're trying to do. They're shooting missiles at us, that's fine. We are going to fight. This is really an existential threat.
Yes.
And it's not hyperbole. This is existential threat, not only to our family, to our nation, because part of what they're doing with this kind of education, they are dumbing down the students.
Yes.
Instead of lifting everybody up and providing them with the support, they are lowering the expectation. And that's why our nation is not going to be able to compete, not on economical basis and not militarily in the international arena.
Elana, I'm sure there are people who are going to want to know more about what you're doing and perhaps even get involved. How do they find out more, and how can they donate to your cause?
Thank you for asking that.
This is the commercial.
Yeah, our website, this is a patriotic act, because we are doing the work. Not everybody can get up and do it. Right. We're doing the work for everybody. We are on noleftturn.us. That's our website. You can go to noleftturn.us. There is a donate button, and we'd appreciate your donation. Everybody as much as they can give. We'll continue fighting. We're not stopping.
Good for you. It's a pleasure to spend time with you again. I remember our first conversation back in October. You've come a very, very long way. Thank God for you and for those who are supporting you. My guest today has been Elana Fishbein, who is a force. You've heard her, you've heard the passion, the commitment that she's making, not just on behalf of her family, but on behalf of all families who believe in the American way, who believe in the principles upon which this country was founded. It's that basic, and as she said, it's an existential threat. You can find her at www.noleftturn.us to make a donation or to volunteer if you wish. Until next time, I'm Rick Anthony. This is 30 Minutes. Thanks very much. Take good care of yourselves.